Greetings. You're on the Betrayal and Beyond channel. I found the proof, and it unraveled everything. If you're listening to this, you probably know me as the guy who makes custom furniture, the guy who posts satisfying videos of wood shavings curling off a chisel. You see my hands, my workshop, the grain of the oak. You've never seen my face, and you've never heard my voice. I guess it's time to change that. Because this story, it isn't about wood or joinery. It's about how the entire framework of my life turned out to be built on a lie. And it starts, like so many stories do, with a box of things that were supposed to stay lost. Her name was Clara. For 8 years, she was my everything. My quiet, gentle Clara. We met when I was just starting my business, living off ramen and sawdust. She was a freelance graphic designer, and she had this fragility about her. A bruised bird quality that made you want to build a fortress around her. And I did. I built my whole world into a fortress for her. The cornerstone of that fortress was her past. She'd been in a terrible relationship before me. A man named Julian. According to Clara, he was a monster. Emotionally abusive, controlling, a man who crushed her spirit. He'd isolated her from her friends, belittled her art, and when she finally found the courage to leave, she did it with nothing but a suitcase and a shattered sense of self. This story explained everything about her. Why she startled at loud noises. Why she hated visiting the city's north side, where they used to live. Why she'd cry if I raised my voice, even in excitement. It explained why she needed me so much. I wasn't just her partner. I was her safe harbor. My quiet, stable life was the antidote to her chaotic past. I wasn't just loving her. I was healing her. It was the most important job I'd ever had. The crack in the foundation appeared on a rainy Tuesday. I was clearing out the attic, a space that had become a graveyard of forgotten projects and half-finished ideas. Tucked under a dusty tarp, I found a sealed cardboard box. It wasn't one of mine. It had university stuff scrawled on the side in her elegant handwriting. I almost called down to her, but then I remembered. She'd told me years ago that she'd lost all her college memorabilia in a flood at her old apartment, the one she shared with Julian. She'd been devastated, she said. Another piece of her history stolen by him. Curiosity got the better of me. I figured I'd surprise her with it, a little piece of her recovered past. I slipped the tape and opened it. Inside were old textbooks, a faded sweatshirt, and a heavy photo album. I smiled, imagining her face when she saw it. I opened the album. The first few pages were standard college stuff. Groups of smiling friends, blurry party pictures. And then I turned a page and my breath caught in my throat. It was a photo of Clara and Julian. But it wasn't a picture of a monster and his victim. They were on a beach, silhouetted against the sunset. He was lifting her up, and she was thrown back in a fit of pure, unadulterated laughter. Her head was tilted back, her eyes squeezed shut in joy. It wasn't the polite, gentle smile I knew. It was a wild, free, ecstatic laugh. He was looking at her with an expression of such profound adoration that it felt like I was spying on a sacred moment. They looked epic, like the end of a perfect movie. I slammed the book shut. My heart was hammering against my ribs. It's just one photo, I told myself. People pretend for photos. People have good moments in bad relationships. But I couldn't shake the image. The way she laughed. I had never, in 8 years, heard her laugh like that. I put the album back, sealed the box, and hid it. But it was too late. A crack had appeared, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I had to see what was at the bottom of it. That photo was the beginning of my descent. For a week, I tried to ignore it. I tried to unsee that picture. I'd look at Clara across the dinner table, her calm, gentle face, and I'd tell myself I was crazy. But the image of her laughing on that beach was burned into my mind. The doubt was a splinter under my skin, and it was starting to fester. So I did what any man in the 21st century does when he's wrestling with a ghost. I started to dig online. Julian's name was unusual enough, Julian Vance. It took me less than 10 minutes to find him. He wasn't a monster. He was a high school history teacher in a small town a few hours away. He had a public Instagram profile. It was filled with pictures of his students on a trip to Washington, D.C., of his golden retriever, of him and his wife. A cheerful-looking woman with kind eyes, and their two little kids. He coached the local Little League team. He had a Teacher of the Year award from 2019 pinned to the top of his profile. He looked decent, normal, happy. I spent hours scrolling, my stomach twisting into a tighter and tighter knot. There were no angry rants, no dark, moody selfies. Just a life, a seemingly good life. I went back a decade, and there she was, Clara. Not many photos, but a few. Group shots with friends, a picture of them hiking with that same golden retriever as a puppy. In every single one, she looked radiant. Alive. My hands were shaking. This wasn't the narrative. This man wasn't a ghost who haunted her. He was a person who had moved on and built a beautiful life. The life she told me he had tried to ruin. That night, I went back to the attic. The box was calling to me. I needed more. I needed to understand. This time, I didn't just look at the photo album. I dug deeper. At the bottom of the box, underneath the textbooks, was a smaller, shoebox-sized container. Inside, bundled with a faded ribbon, was a stack of letters. Some were from him to her. Poetic, passionate letters about their future, about the house they would build, the places they would travel. But it was her letters to him that broke me. Her handwriting, the same elegant script that was on the side of the box, filled page after page with a passion I never knew she possessed. Jules, one started. I saw a motorcycle today, a vintage Triumph, and I almost called you. I still forget that I can't. This city feels gray without your colors in it. I miss the chaos. I miss our chaos. Another one, from later. I'm trying to paint again, but it's no use. The canvas is just quiet. You were the noise in my art. I don't know how to create without the noise. I sat there, on the dusty floor of my attic, reading the words of a woman I didn't know. This Clara wasn't fragile. She was a bonfire. She was fierce and poetic and full of longing for a man she supposedly fled. She wasn't healing from him. She was mourning him. Then I found the last letter. It was different. It was an official, crinkled document. A letter from an art institute in Florence. It was an acceptance letter. For two people. For Clara and for Julian. A joint artist residency for a year. A dream they were supposed to live together. It was dated just 3 months before she and I met. The pieces started clicking into place, forming a picture I didn't want to see. The lie wasn't just about him being a monster. The lie was everything. Her fragility, her quietness, her fear of the north side of the city. It wasn't trauma. It was heartbreak. She hadn't run from a cage. She had run from a future she had lost. And me? I wasn't her safe harbor. I was the anesthetic. I was the quiet, predictable, stable man who was the polar opposite of the chaos she missed. I was her hiding place from her own grief. My love wasn't a cure, it was a cover story. And for 8 years, I had played my part perfectly, never knowing I was just an actor in a play she wrote to make herself the victim, instead of the one who, for some reason, had walked away. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place that weekend. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't live inside this lie for another day. But before I did, I needed to understand the why. Why walk away from all that? I found the answer in the last place I looked. I Googled her name and his, along with the word exhibit. An old article popped up from a local arts blog, dated 8 years ago. It was a review of a small gallery show. The review praised the raw talent of a young painter named Julian Vance. And then, at the bottom, there was a single, devastating line. His work, which explores themes of love and sudden loss, is made all the more poignant by the recent, tragic death of his fiancée and fellow artist, who passed away in a car accident just before they were set to leave for a residency in Italy. The fiancée wasn't Clara. The article included a picture of the other woman. My blood ran cold. He had moved on. He had found someone else after Clara left. They had gotten engaged, planned to go to Italy, and then she had died. Clara hadn't run from a monster. She'd run because he'd replaced her. And when tragedy struck him, she couldn't face him. She couldn't be the one to comfort the man who had been ready to build a new life without her. So she buried it all. She buried the passionate, artistic woman she was and invented a new one, a quiet, broken victim. And she found me to believe in her. That night, I waited for her to come home. I didn't arrange the evidence like in a movie. I just sat in the living room, the shoebox of letters on the coffee table. When she walked in, she smiled her gentle smile. "Hey you. Long dead." "I was in the attic, Clara," I said, my voice quiet but heavy. Her smile faltered. "Oh, finding any treasures?" "I found your box. The one you said was lost in the flood." The color drained from her face. She didn't speak. She just stared at the box. I read the letters. I continued. "I saw the photo. I saw the acceptance to Florence. And then I saw the article about Julian's fiancée, the one who died." She sank onto the sofa opposite me, her body deflating. The fragile bird was gone. In her place was just a woman, stripped of her story. "You weren't his victim, were you?" I asked, not with anger, but with a profound, aching sadness. "You loved him. You loved him so much that when he moved on, you couldn't bear it. So you erased him. You erased yourself. And you made him a monster because it was easier than admitting he broke your heart by falling in love with someone else." A single tear traced a path down her cheek. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I think I do," I said, my voice finally clear. "I understand that I spent 8 years loving a ghost. I spent 8 years believing my job was to heal you. But you weren't broken. You were just hiding. And my life, my love, it was your hiding place." The silence in the room was absolute. It was the sound of a world ending. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. The evidence was right there, in her own handwriting. "I never meant to hurt you," she finally said, the words sounding hollow. "I know," I said. "And the strangest part is, I believed her. You didn't want to hurt me. You just needed me to not be him. And I did a great job of that, didn't I?" She didn't come back with me. There was nothing to come back to. The man she was living with, the safe harbor, had been a character in her play. Now that I knew the truth, my role was over. The first few weeks were silent. The house was a vacuum. Every quiet corner that used to feel peaceful now felt empty. I walked through the rooms like a stranger. Who was I, if not her protector? My entire identity for the last 8 years had been defined in opposition to her fictional monster. Without him, and without her, I was just a man who made furniture. But then, something shifted. It wasn't a sudden epiphany. It was a slow dawn. One afternoon, I opened my old camera bag. I hadn't touched it in years. Clara had hated it when I took pictures. She said the sound of the shutter reminded her of Julian, who was also a photographer. Another small lie, another piece of me I had willingly sanded down to make our life smoother. I took the camera and I drove. I drove to the north side of the city, to the neighborhood she always avoided. It was just a place. Brick buildings, a park, a coffee shop. It held no power. It was just a place where 2 people used to live. I started taking pictures. Of light hitting a window. Of an old man reading a newspaper. Of the details I hadn't let myself see for years. And with every click of the shutter, I felt a piece of myself returning. The noise she had written about in her letters. I realized I had my own. I had just silenced it for her. The final step was the hardest. I drove the few hours to that small town. I found the beach from the photograph. I stood there, at sunset, watching the waves crash. I wasn't there to find him, or to find her. I was there to find myself. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the need for revenge. I felt a strange, quiet pity for her. She had chosen to live as a ghost, haunted by a past she couldn't accept. She'd built a prison of lies and willingly locked herself inside. I had been her warden, and I never even knew it. I raised my camera and took a picture of the sunset. It wasn't their sunset. It was mine. The sky was a brilliant, fiery orange. It was the color of a new beginning. I don't know what happened to Clara. I don't need to. Her story is no longer tangled up with mine. I sold the house and moved into a smaller place with a bigger workshop. My work has changed. It's bolder now, more honest. I'm no longer building fortresses. I'm free. I didn't get closure from her. I took it for myself. And that's the kind of foundation that will never crack.
Thank you for sharing this space with us and listening to this story on betrayal and beyond.
Now, we want to hear from you.
What part of this story was the most heartbreaking for you? The moment he saw the joyful photo in the album, or when he read her passionate letters to another man? This story explores a unique form of deception, not just an affair, but the complete fabrication of a personality. Have you ever been in a situation where you realized the story someone told you about their past was a carefully constructed lie? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, it would mean the world to us if you'd like and subscribe for more. And remember, the most important truth isn't the one you learn about someone else, it's the one you rediscover about yourself.